The two Canadian fishing boats collided in a heavy fog. The 164-foot Cape Beaver struck the 120-foot Margaret Jane amidships. The crew of the smaller wooden vessel moved to abandon ship, but when the steel-hulled Cape Beaver, its engines full astern, backed off, the Margaret Jane quickly began sinking. Some of the crew had time to put on life jackets, but others did not. Two fishermen wearing life preservers were pulled down by the sinking boat and did not escape.
Shit happens here too.
Our top story, the whereabouts of a father and son fishing crew remain unknown tonight in spite of a day-long search.
The Megan J is high and dry on the Littleton Wharf tonight. Family of the two missing fishermen found waterlogged mementos and helped officials look for clues as to how the vessel capsized. The overturned hull was spotted by a search plane this morning. It was towed back to port this evening. Divers made one last check for the crew inside before she was righted, but there was no sign of the missing men.
The bodies of the four dead men were brought ashore at Seatoon early this morning. They were below deck when the bow of the Sydney Express ploughed into the 17-metre fishing trawler. Trapped in the hull, they drowned before rescuers could reach them. Another man is missing, presumed drowned. His body couldn't be found on board the boat and is expected to wash ashore.
At 4:30 this morning, the Oyang 86 became a steel oven. Two crew members trapped below decks in the bunkhouse had no chance. Firefighters had to stop other crew from forcing their way back on the vessel. Rescue efforts would have been futile. The ship's metal deck was white hot and foam had to be used as water turned to steam.
The wreck of the 15-metre Awanui was left high and dry. It's understood the trawler was hit by a huge wave and rolled as it tried to cross the bar. Its crew were tossed overboard. The river mouths into Westport and Greymouth are among the most dangerous in the country. They've claimed 13 lives in the past 8 years. 8 people have drowned entering the Grey River mouth and 5 entering the Buller. This trawler capsized trying to negotiate the Grey River bar 2 years ago. Captain Alistair Peach clung to a lifebuoy, but his first mate died in the raging surf.
Just how hazardous became obvious at 5:30 last night when the trawler sank, catching authorities and salvage experts by surprise. And
fishing is a hazardous occupation. Nobody pretends it isn't.
These waters have claimed dozens of boats since those days.
But the difference between a hazard at sea and a disaster is safety.
The Tairawani will end her life on this rough west coast beach. Today, a helicopter was used to salvage whatever could be.
But there's a problem.
The Tairawani was crippled after being...
The biggest difficulty with safety training and safety procedures is to get you people to take it seriously.
And everybody's life carries on, but everybody's thoughts are with the family at this time.
The boat was well known in the south. Its loss has left locals shocked.
You sort of don't think these things can happen to you, but they do, you know. And I don't know, my thoughts, I don't know, I still give it a bit of hope.
Well, listen up, people, and watch closely. Shit happens to anyone.
we were fishing one day, and when it was time to come home, we were getting the boat ready to come home, and the boat's got flopper stoppers on it, arms out each side with rope and chain going into the water with a triangular paravane on it, and we've never had any problems with the flopper stoppers coming out of the water or anything, and we were just about ready to head for home, tying in trawl doors and stowing gear, and the flopper stopper came out of the water and hit the fella on the head.
Well, what happened is they put on a new net roller, and like everything was new, it just got put on and stuff, and it was our first trip with it. And when I was up the top, like guiding on the chains and that, mid-water chains, and I was holding on to the chains, and what happened is the roller didn't hold, the brakes weren't holding, and it just kept turning when I was on it, and I just fell forward and just fell with the roller. And yeah, when I landed like my hands outstretched, and really busted up one of my arms really bad.
Yeah, well, I was getting prepared for sea and working down below on a deep sea fishing vessel, and we were loading up packaging. It was the first lift, and it got caught up on the hatch, and it was strapped up by ropes, and the hatch person was signalling it down, but it kept on coming down, and it was caught up, and the cartons flipped out, and they were done up by plastic, and come crashing down below, about 20 feet down below, bounced across and smashed me into the leg.
Anyway, yeah, there was a hose broke on the freezers in the factory on the first trip that I did on this new boat, and it was quite a bad leak, and the factory was evacuated, and they had a muster station up at the bridge, and I was forgotten. Well, not necessarily forgotten, but it was a bit of panic, and ammonia started leaking into the plant. I've got two fans. One's an inlet fan, comes in from the factory into my hold, and the outlet fan sucks the air out of the plant. And I was working away, and I could start smelling ammonia. No, I didn't think it was that bad, so I kept working, because we've had a few leaks before, and you know whether it's bad or not. And after about 10 minutes, it got really bad, and I couldn't breathe.
We were shooting the gear, and I was watching the net roller, mid-water net roller, and I was bending down with my left hand, just flicking meshes away from the mid-water weights, and my hand was to my side, my right hand, and a mesh fell on it with a twist, and I wasn't watching, and actually the mesh went back around the roller, so it pulled tight, and I didn't realise, and originally it was around my wrist, and I just happened to shake it down, and by then it was too late. And I remember, watching each one, just my hand go like this, and with the tension it just cut straight through, and I kind of looked at my hand and thought, has that really happened? And my fingers were facing the other way. And
we were trawling on a trawler, which is a side lifter, in the early hours of the evening, and we'd retrieved the trawl, and we were lifting the bag over the side when we suffered a gear failure in one of the lifting booms. The actual metal of the tube pulled apart, letting the whole lot come crashing down to the deck, which the 3.5 to 4.5 tons of fish we were lifting brought down. We were unfortunate, and we had a young deckhand who was doing his job standing underneath it. The block and tackle assembly hit him in the middle of the back, which pretty well killed him instantaneously.
Well, how it actually started is we'd been working the vessel rather hard. It's a smallish vessel, 21 metre vessel, towing the mid-water gear and cook straight, chasing hokey, and it's both feet on throttle, hammer hard down, working a bit of weather. And it wasn't until we'd actually broken a weld that was in the exhaust pipe itself that it let the exhaust gas escape, which was right on a bend. and that superheated exhaust gas ejected out the side of a small hole, went through a piece of missing asbestos lining and set fire to the wooden panelling, the mahogany panelling that was inside the bridge on there.
Well, there's a lot of examples, but one that I seen happen in front of my eyes was a guy coming through a bulkhead door. Now, as you know, bulkhead doors are very heavy, and the ship was pitching and rolling. It was heavy weather. He got one leg over the coaming into the other room, trying to hang on to the heavy steel door with the other hand, and the boat just lurched. The door flew out of his hand, come back, slammed on his leg, broke it.
I suppose that over the years down south on the small boats, I've had 3 crew members fall over the side. Silly things. One just going to put a rope over a cray block, missed it, and over he went. Another time we had a wee cray float bouncing across the deck. The guy went to grab it, missed it, and hit a fish tub and just skidded over the side. I didn't know I'd lost him. About 15 minutes later, someone called me up on the radio and says, "You're missing someone." Looking around the boat, and yeah, I have.
What happened is every smoke I defrost the trio, so I turn the water on, wind the blade out, undo the scrapers and turn the blade off. And what I thought I'd done was turn the blade off, but I hadn't, and what had happened was the blade was still on, and hand was on the blade for probably a couple of seconds. I took my hand away and I realised that I'd cut my finger pads off.
We were changing the trawl from midwater to bottom trawl, and that entailed fleeting the net to one side on a Japanese vessel. We had wires coming down the deck to pull the main hook back, and I was clearing the net monitor, and the wire was buried in the net, and while I was clearing the net monitor, someone down the back pulled the lever on the winch the wrong way, and the wire popped up and hit me across that arm and across that arm there.
I was out doing my usual day's work, and just towards the end of it, when we thought we were doing all right, this accident occurred where a small block broke its fastening and just twanged me in the side of the head. Yeah, right here. It was officially described as being from my right eye socket to my right ear base, and that was that part of my skull that was all fractured.
Well, I think that people would take a lot more care, and they would think twice about what they do or what they don't do correctly on board a boat. Quite frankly, if they had found more bodies floating in the water. I mean, I had exactly that experience in 1977, where I found a fellow fisherman that I knew well, my age, and he was in a small boat fishing in Tasman Bay. Boat sunk underneath him. I was one of the boats that went searching for him, and we found him, and the next day, and it's a great sobering influence, I can assure you, on your ideas towards safety at sea when you find somebody that you know well drowned.
I've lost a crew off a trawler overseas by standing in the wrong place, and a trawl sweep wire came up, hit him in the chest, knocked him into the ramp. He was the wrong side of it, so that killed him, but then we couldn't find him either because he sunk like a stone because all the wind was knocked out of him. So you know, yeah, I think there wouldn't be many fishermen in New Zealand who don't know someone who's had a serious accident.
Yeah, there was a loud thud. It was all I can remember hearing at the time, and I probably swore a bit and I didn't think I was that severely injured. I didn't feel any pain. I knew I'd been hit, but I didn't realise the extent of it. So I more or less just stood there and took stock of things for a while. And that was about the point at which I blacked out.
And then, I just blacked out and remember watching and waking up in the boat, and you can see that the healing process has been very successful. You wouldn't think that they were totally severed. You can see this one here was cut through the joint. That one was pretty low down. That one was pretty low down, and that one there's through the joint. So they'll never be able to. They're fused, so I'll never be able to do that. They'll only bend at the tip.
But I had actually given some instructions to the other crewmen. Said something along the lines of stow the fish away, and then we'll have a cup of tea afterwards. Which they went and did. They put the fish away and came back 15 or 20 minutes later and found that I was still unconscious, or apparently had been so all that time.
So what they did, they got the stretcher down there and lifted me out on that, and they had the ambulance out on the wharf waiting for me, and went to the hospital. And they did their tests and everything like that, and what actually happened was that I'd torn one of the medial ligaments in my knee, and or torn them quite badly, and there'd been a bit of damage done to the gristle under the kneecap.
And that's when you just snapped my arm up here, put my elbow out, dislocated my elbow, snapped straight across here. The two forearm bones straight across, compound fractures, and the same on my wrist. And over here, this scar up here is from a compartment syndrome, because they had to cut my arm to release all the pressure, and they left it open for like 3 weeks, and they had to close it a bit at a time, and this is why I've got a skin graft here, because they couldn't close the full arm up.
But I when I got home, I ended up in shock, and I couldn't move for a long time, and the hospital were quite helpful. They offered home help and things like that.
The accident happened, say, like 2 years ago, and for the first 6 months I wasn't doing anything physical, because I couldn't move my hand or anything, so my rehabilitation didn't start for 6 months after that, and that was like going to the gym, doing little hand exercises, and I was going like 3 times a week, and it was pretty hard doing it. It's sore.
Sponges, squeezing sponges. We've been Play-Doh, trying to squeeze Play-Doh and push my fingers out on the Play-Doh. They give me movements to do actively and passively. Actively means I use my left hand to pull my fingers down. Passively, I try and do it myself.
I was on crutches for quite a while, and I was off work for something like nearly 2 months. It took me quite a bit of physiotherapy and a lot of pain and a lot of effort to get it right again, to strengthen it up.
To do that, so it looks so easy, but for me to move that much, one of my fingers, just so hard. You don't realise how hard it is to do.
Because I couldn't move around or anything, I had crutches, but that was very difficult, because I live on a hill, and most of the time I was laying on my back.
So I started panicking, and I went out to the plant to try and run up the stairs. At this stage I had a rag over my mouth so I could breathe air, and it was really bad. It was like a fog coming down the stairs, sort of like out of a horror movie, quite scary. And I got halfway up the stairs and there was just no go. It just went straight to my eyes and my crutch and under my arms. It goes for the wet spots in your body.
At the time, what I'd actually done when I'd cut it, I thought I'd only nicked them, and I'd put my hand back down and kept on working. And then I looked down at my hand and there was blood everywhere. And then I had a proper look, and that's when I realised, I'd done some serious damage. And I went straight up to the factory manager and I said, I think I've cut my fingers. And he said, yeah, I had. And then I'd sort of set in, there was blood everywhere, and I'd sort of set in that, I'd done something serious.
So I ran back down there. At this stage I was thinking I'm going to die. panicking flat out. So I got on the phone and I was ringing the bridge, and I couldn't get through to the bridge, and I couldn't get through to the galley or anywhere really.
They're still unbearable to touch at the ends. It's only because all the nervy things and that were severed. They get sore when they get cold, that's about it. But it'll probably take, the nurse there, it'll probably take a good couple of years for them to come properly right.
And I just kept trying and trying, and finally in the end I got through, and I think the words were, "Help me somebody, I can't breathe." In truth, I said, "Someone come and get me, I'm fucking dying, I can't breathe." That's what I said. And that's what it felt like. Well, at first I was thinking to myself, I'll be right, someone's going to come and get me, or I'll find a way out of here. But as it got worse and worse, I started thinking to myself, I'm going to die. You know, I actually thought maybe I was going to die, you know. It was quite scary, but yeah, I was lucky, yeah, real lucky. Yeah.
By the time we'd actually got rid of the fire, cleared it out, it had taken out the electronics, the main distribution board that fed our navigation gear, our autopilot. We had no electrics left in the bridge, no communications, and when we got finally alongside the wharf in Picton, the fire brigade met us in there. They went through, they checked it all out, and they actually complimented the crew on how well they handled it, how they attacked it, and the way that they went about it. They actually said themselves to the insurance company that if they hadn't been handled in the way it was, we would have lost the vessel.
Knocked him to the deck. Very lucky for him that it only just hit him a glancing blow, and not too much damage was done. Previous to that, my crew refused to wear hard hats on the boat, much to my disgust, and hence the next trip when I went out on the boat and went to go out on the deck, I was handed a hard hat and told don't come out here without one. So, yeah.
How did we get it out? Well, we attacked it, or the crew attacked it with the fire axes, removed the wall panels, just generally trashed the whole thing. Very energetic about it. I think the main reason they were very energetic about it is because the only way through into that part of the exhaust trunking was through my personal cabin, so they had a field day in there just tearing it to pieces.
Small boat in Tasman Bay, and as I say, this was many years ago, 15, 20 years ago. He was relieving himself over the side and hit a bit of a wave, and he fell over the side. His boat promptly went up on a reef over towards Totranui. Luckily enough, he was close enough to where the boat went up on the rocks to swim in there.
I've nearly fallen over the side myself. Going outside to go to the toilet, your mind's not on the job. You know, the wee boats, you do it over the side. Boat lurches and away you go.
And it was an older type vessel where we had the old chutes down into the freezer, and the beginning of each trip you had to tie the chutes up, and the higher you stacked the cartons, the higher up you had to pull the chute. And this day I was down there on my own, and I lifted the chute up and I needed to cut some rope, so I had an aluminium ladder onto a steel staunching, and the boat was pitching a bit, so I thought, well, I'll put the knife between my teeth and climb the ladder like a pirate. And
yeah, one of the cray fishermen on the deck of the boat was baiting up a cray pot, and these are probably large ones, 4 foot square, 180 pound pots. Had his arm inside the pot, the boat lurched and he went over the side. So he's got his wet weather gear caught up on it, over he went. Then the skipper pulls him up, a minute later he gets him up out of the water, the pot's just sitting there, and the guy, big smile on his face, says, no crayfish down there.
I'd done that, and as soon as I put it on me there, I got halfway up the ladder and realised that it was 40 below, and the steel on the knife stuck to my lips. It's a good case of panicking, because what I'd done, I whipped it out and I didn't enjoy my coffee for quite some time.
The skipper thinks, I'll fix this one, lets him go again, says, have another look. Second time he came up, he wasn't smiling.
Well, that's funny, because the guy didn't drown, you know, but also, you know, there's probably instances where people haven't been that lucky, which is bloody sad. So, yeah, I think after the fact you can laugh about it, but at the time, if you think about how serious it could have been, it's probably not really a laughing matter.
It's affected every aspect of not only my life, the rest of my family's, and everybody else that I have relationships with. Because I'm a different person now, really. I mean, I'm really lucky because I should have died as a result of that accident, and I've got a second chance at things.
We did resuscitation for 3/4 of an hour under advice from medical people. Although after 3/4 of an hour they were quite willing to declare him dead.
So the positive side is that in picking up the pieces I'm able to have a second go and hopefully a better attempt at life, but at the same time I'm still not sure how things are going to work out in the long run, and nor are the rest of my family.
Everyone was affected different ways. We actually had a father and a son on board and the son was quite shaken by it, being only 16, 17. But having his father was on board was good from my point of view because he sort of took over that side. We were offered counselling and that. I don't think anyone actually took it up. It helped a lot being a definite accident. If there had been blame apportioned or something, it might have been different.
I've got to make decisions now that I wasn't expecting to have had to come to grips with, about whether to even try and go back to doing what I've done best over the last 20 years, or whether I'll look for something totally different to do, or try and sort of climb back up to doing what I used to. So it's sort of a decision whether to look for something completely different, or whether to persevere with my disabilities, or whether to accept the fact that I'll never be able to do what I expected that I was going to be doing for the rest of my working life.
Yeah, the effect it had on me was I felt the ultimate responsibility, of course, as skipper of the boat and sort of hiring and firing the guys, etc. So I actually gave up running a boat for about 6 months. And when I did get back to running a boat, I didn't really feel I was ready for it, but it was good, and in hindsight I should have got back into it a lot sooner.
Yeah, definitely that's the end of fishing for me. Not that I want to go, I'd love to go back, but that's it. There's no way I'll be able to go back. The accident hasn't scared me away, it's just that it's just going to be inappropriate.
Of all my years that I've been fishing, I've never been laid up like this before, and it's sort of leaves you into, puts you into no man's land. You get injured like that, and you think, well, what's going on out at sea and things like that, and sometimes you get a little bit down on yourself, having an accident like that. What could have I done to prevent it, or what could have been done to prevent it?
Yeah, I do. I do miss being out there. Like, it's been 2 years now, and I just miss the physical side and like workmates and that, but I kind of like mostly miss the physical side of being out on the water and doing it. It just makes you feel like you're there, kind of, you're the man, and you gotta so.
It'd be not being able to have the strength, I suppose, and being hindered would put pressure on everyone else as well as myself. And when you're out there, things are moving, it's high, it's rough, you can't have someone that's lacking behind, so it'd be unfair on everyone.
When you've had a severe lesson, the thing that comes through is that you want to try and communicate what you've learned through to someone else that might benefit from it.
We don't want to have kids maimed for life, and that's what happens, because the gear on these vessels is heavy, it's flying around at great rates of knots, and it's a split second. 1 second and your life's changed. That's all it takes. If you aren't killed, usually you've got a pretty serious injury. You know, there could be limbs broken or limbs lost even.
There's only one reality when you come to the fishing industry, especially the bigger boats, not even the big boats, even the smaller boats. There's one reality of it. There's wires out there, there's blocks out there. There's no such thing on these vessels as a small accident.
In my opinion, a vessel is an accident waiting to happen. And the trick is not to let it happen to you. And to do that is to be alert and think about things.
One of the silly things that we see is accidents happen through negligence. We're probably familiar with something. We all get the days when we're focused, we're on the job, you know, all hell's breaking loose around us, and we're focused and we get into it. That's great. It's probably when we're relaxed, when we're off watch or watch keeping, the silly things happen.
It's dangerous when you start to feel that you're, when you get too relaxed about the job. That's one thing that, in hindsight, that I feel that I had been relaxed about the safety aspect.
It's human nature to forget. It's human nature to, once you've worked around something for a long time, to actually accept it as part of your life, and that's always there, and I'll just wander through. And sometimes it takes a bad accident to actually wake people up, but it's just a bloody shame that these bad accidents do happen.
I won't go into another plant now unless I check it out and make sure it's safe, just because of that accident, you know. Because you always think it'll never happen to me, but, you know, it can.
Yeah, before when you used to do a safety inspection, you didn't really think what it meant. Now you know what it means.
I think what it basically showed them, I mean, they were told plenty of times, you know, you should wear your safety hat. An accident that you don't even realise is going to happen will happen, and they basically thought it won't happen to us, as everybody does. And the day that small accident happened, I think was a rude awakening to them all, and they turned around and did realise that, hey, it can happen to us.
I've seen a couple on the little boats where guys have walked into the wrong place and pulled the wrong lever. And, well, I'm a prime example. I was working down the back of the Independent one day, slanging around underneath the trawl door where I shouldn't have been, and one of the boys went past and bumped the winch lever and dropped the trawl door on top of my hand. So I'm sitting down the back of the boat with about 400 kg of steel trawl door sitting on my hand. They're wandering off the other way with the mouth going, sort of, get it off, you know.
Well, the human error side was the fact that while I was carrying the net monitor, no one should have actually been touching the winches or doing anything until they were indicated to either go up or go down. The fact that they touched it while I was over the net could have had disastrous results. And the fact being that I was very fortunate that I had my arms out in front of me here. If I hadn't have had my arms in that position, it probably would have taken the head off.
Yeah, I lost a brother quite a few years ago, but that was fishing in an area that when the weather comes up quite bad, it turns real nasty, and he should have got out of the place sooner.
You're right, I think some people who've been at sea a long time may take unnecessary risks because they think, okay, I've been lucky for the last 20 years. I think, you know, that's when it can probably get you.
Accidents happen to experienced people as well as juniors. In fact, I think the juniors are more aware because they're fresh on the job and they don't want to make a mistake, and they really push it, not getting hurt and making an impression. But I think what happens, people get a bit blasé, they get used to doing things, and of course you're working big hours and you get tired and you think, well, if I just do this way and it won't take as long, and that's when accidents happen.
You know, fatigue is an issue on fishing vessels, and I think you know, when boats work hard and crews work hard, quite often they're up for, you know, 24 hours or something like that.
tiredness is a big thing in the fishing industry, and really you must be aware all the time. Doesn't matter how tired you are, you've really got to keep thinking. For instance, a young guy might be put on the on a watch who doesn't really realise he's in quite confined waters, and he falls asleep for what he thinks is 10 minutes, and the next minute the boat's up on the beach. You know, we had an instance of one of our trawlers from Nelson go on the beach in the Chetwood Islands, right up on the 9 pins. Luckily they landed on a beach.
That's the reality of the job. It's hard, it's long, it's tiring, and it's, in a lot of places, it's bloody dangerous. You are going to get tired and you are going to be fatigued, but if you are, you should tell someone, you know, especially if you're going into a position where you think you might get hurt. There's no use pushing your luck, because one day it'll run out.
I'd say one of the big changes in the industry since I started in the last 20 years would be getting on the boats, thinking you can do everything and safety was someone else's problem, to being responsible for your own safety. Nowadays it should be a culture on board. You're responsible for yourself, the ship has got to be safe, good place to work, and the whole attitude towards safety has changed. Well, let's put it this way. I started fishing about 24 years ago, and it was quite common to take out fishing vessels with skippers. Most of them are passed on now, great guys, but it was a school of, you know, let's put the crate of whiskey onto the vessel and pull myself out of the car and away we go fishing. It's changed now.
I think the people that prop up the bar in the long run are not going to be here in 10 or 20 years as fishermen. I mean, there's no place at sea for excessive drink, in my opinion, anyway. Companies will not tolerate, they don't need to tolerate, any fools, pissheads, don't need to tolerate it.
I think it's really safety conscious now. It's good. It's almost to the point where you get sick of doing musters and it, you know, like ammonia drills and fire drills.
Constant training, constant reminding, yeah. Troops get sick of you putting notices up, but you're only putting notices up for their own safety.
It's a pain in the ass, but it's good. You have to do it. I mean, you know, everyone's got to be aware.
Just be aware. People just hop on boats and they just don't realise how much hazard is on the boat. You know, it's a working platform that's always moving.
When you're out there, you just got to really keep your eyes about you, especially if you're on the deck. So it's stuff like moving around there, you just don't know where it's coming from.
When you're out at sea, and when you're working with cranes and you know, wire ropes, you know, there's a heck of a lot of there's a heck of a lot of power behind those things, and you know, it can just happen in the blink of an eye.
Because if you like fuck up out there or stuff up, you're not only going to get yourself in the shit, but some other person might come in to try and help you, whereas they'll get hurt too.
Think twice before you do something that'll put yourself or somebody else at risk. It happens so easily and so quickly.
So really it is important that you've got to think all the time. You won't prevent all accidents, but you can certainly have a good go at slowing them down. It's up to you as an individual.
So shit does happen, and whether you like it or not, it could happen to you. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Many of you watching this video are just about to sign on for a new voyage. New recruit or old hand, the chances are you're just about to be taken around a vessel that's new to you. Or perhaps you're on a training course, and all this will be happening to you quite soon.
Welcome aboard, Logan. Nice to meet you. Now, we're just going to have a little bit of a look around the boat, and I'll show you where a couple of things are. We'll actually do the bizzo when we're actually working. Yeah. You'll see more about it then, but first off, anyway, you've got your life raft up there with its release and everything.
Yep.
And life rings.
Yep.
If it's an inshore boat, the skipper, or if it's a freezer trawler, the bosun, or the mate, or the factory manager, is going to show you your muster station in case of emergency, tell you where the fire extinguishers are, and that sort of thing. And if they haven't done so already, they're going to give you a crew manual to read.
This is probably the most important area that you'll need to know. Whenever you hear an alarm on the boat, there's two different alarms, a fire alarm and a muster alarm. I'll show you inside where you can see what the alarms are. Basically, in the case of any alarm, you come up to this area here, there'll be a roll call, and you'll all be given a life jacket. Important that you know how to put the life jackets on. So we'll just fit you all up in one of these now. If you just grab one of these each, please. Okay, life jackets. Undo the clip on the front. Mount your life jacket. Put your head through the noose. With your arm through one strap. Okay, take your arm through there, Brian.
Obviously, there's a big difference between the way things are done on small coastal vessels and on large deep-sea trawlers. And different companies and different skippers do things in different ways.
Okay, Logan. In here we have our fire extinguishers.
Yeah.
There's two there. There's actually one in the forecastle as well. EPIRB.
What does an EPIRB do?
Oh, it's just a location beacon. If you sink or some or other, flick the switch and it'll tell the people where we are. Hopefully, with a bit of luck.
So we'll just go around and I'll show you where the trimming line is, where most of the work goes on. Mind your heads.
But by law, all must provide you with as safe a working environment as is reasonable. And with all the gear and all the training you'll need to be able to do your job without undue risk.
Now over on the trimming line, obviously, and also on the packing line, you will be using knives. They are sharp, or they should be sharp. Sharp knife's much easier to work with than a blunt knife. You're walking with a knife around the factory. Please don't go waving it around in front of you. Tuck it up the side of your arm. That way, if you do stumble, throw it away from yourself. You're not going to hurt yourself and you're not going to hurt anybody else. Okay? Please, keep your knives in a safe carrying position. If you do cut yourself, there is a medic on board. He's not bad at stitching. I wouldn't say he's all that good at stitching. You'll have a nice scar, but we don't want people having accidents. We'd rather you went slowly until you got used to what you were doing, until you're comfortable with what you were doing, and so that we avoid accidents. This vessel's got a really good safety record. We'd like to keep it that way.
We have two radios.
Yeah.
The SSB, that's long range sort of deal, and the little VHF. And that's the one we use mostly. Yep. Radar, two GPSs, sounder.
You may be required to spend some time out here. As you can see, all the guys that are working on the deck have hard hats on. I have a hard hat because that's my job is out here. You guys will be issued with a hard hat any time you're out here. If you get yelled at, that's probably what you get yelled at for, is coming out on deck and not wearing a hard hat, okay? And it'll be me who does the yelling. All right, so if you're asked to come out here, please be safety conscious. As you can see by the sign up there, safety first. Safety at all times on the vessel.
Just general gear, ropes, blocks are real important. Make sure that that's always tied up.
Yep.
That will take your head off.
I'd like you all at some stage, please, to take time to read and study these, because in the event of a fire or an accident, you may be asked to find an extinguisher or go to a particular area. Okay?
But by law, you have a responsibility too. After your tour, you are going to sign on the dotted line that you have seen everything you need to see, and that you will obey every command given to you by those people you must obey.
Now this shows all the duties that everybody's responsible for. You will be given a duty in the case of a fire, and in the case of a muster, we will muster on the boat deck. Your name will be listed specifically on these lists over here.
You are going to sign that you have read the crew manual, and that you will make it your business to keep yourself up to date with any changes,
what your working shifts are,
either notified to you in person or posted on a notice board somewhere.
cabin lists. Now it's your job, not anybody else's, your job to familiarise yourself with your duty. If you don't know,
And you are going to sign that you know that it is your job to keep your eyes open for new hazards and to tell somebody properly about them. Safety is a partnership between you and your employer. It's a partnership that makes the difference between hazard and disaster, for them and for you. And it's a partnership that makes sure that if shit happens to you, or to your mates, at least you'll stand a fighting chance of surviving it to tell the tale.